Good morning, everyone. Today we have with us Professor Alok Jagga. He is a corporate connect and communication instructor at Taxila Business School. Let's take a quick look into his work. He holds 20 plus years of training experience at different roles from a consultant, quality analyst, faculty, head of the department to a corporate trainer and language coach. Certified by NESCOM and topped the state in speaking section. He is test prep and corporate discipline expert, grooming over tens of thousands over a spell of decade with reputed names such as IHM, Jamboree, and many more. Welcome, sir.
Hello, everybody. My name is Alok. Today, I will spend some time with you and I would try to add some meaning to your overall understanding of a case study. Well, primarily, let me just greet all the future managers, leaders, and why not entrepreneurs too. Well, one thing that make you and I connect together is innovation. You have been good in bringing out new things, and this is something that I would love to inculcate in you today. Without wasting any more time, let me just bring up what is the core concern of today's session: how to present a case study. Okay. My first very simple question to you is, what do you consider this word argument for? Or what do you think the term argument means? Well, in most cases, this very word argument is understood as a contrasting opinion, a countering view, or something into which you have a debate. But let me just clarify this, that whatever you must have known, if it was any amongst these three terms, then we'll have to correct this first. Argument simply means point of opinion, a thought, your view. So let's understand, view means claim, your opinion, a belief, an assertion, a hypothesis. So it could be any of these things which constitute to become an argument. Whatever is your case study, it is always from the perspective of a writer. And that is why it is considered as an argument. Let's get going. Let's now understand how to analyze any argument. Well, there are always two aspects to any argument. For example, I may have an opinion. Mera ek soch ho sakta hai. There are always two opinions that you can bring. You can simply say, really? Or you can say, no, that's not possible. So it could be any of these two. One in which you say, really, I was amazed to know. And in the second you say, no, I didn't believe you. I didn't know of that. So the first view that anybody could come up with is, you could support an argument. You could validate an argument. You could justify an argument. Or you could go along with the motion. So every argument, which is of course the baseline of a case study, can always be supported as one of the work done by any person, any examinee for that matter. So those of you who are today connected with us and are looking forward to really earn their name in developing this case study into the best versions, then they can choose one opinion, which could be a support opinion. And of course, the second is very easy for you to guess, that is oppose. Oppose means to counter it, to go against it, to disvalidate it, or just to say that no, whatever claims are made, they may not be as true as they are claimed for. And whenever you say that, you need to back up your sayings with a lot of expertise. Well, this expertise could even come up with examples that you could think of, or with some of the validate evidences. Now let's take this presentation further. So these are some of the parliamentary terms that you could use in case if you are somebody who is supporting the argument. Once again, argument means point of view. So every time there's a case study, there is an author comes up with his view. You can support his view. In that case, you could choose any amongst these words. The first word is validate, address, attend to, buttress, strengthen, support, augment, supplement, justify. There are lots of words. Reason with, account for. So basically, whenever you use any of these terms, let's say you want to account for something, then you need to please account for something in terms of an example. So produce a valid example to buttress the case. Only then the reader would be able to provide some subjectivity to your ideas. Otherwise, your ideas do not make any sense. Right? So you need to be very, very good and quick out there. Okay, let's get going. So I gave you a piece of words and I just got to know that the presentation is right now up your screen. So there are terms like validate. So what do you understand by validate? That means to support, right? Address, that means whenever you are addressing your concerns and you are going along with the author, or attend to, buttress, strengthen, support, augment, supplement, or justify. Now let's talk about the second kind of treatment that you could give to any case study, and that could very validly be counter. And what do you mean by counter? Counter means to oppose, to go against, or of course the word oppose. You can even use the word undermine, challenge, criticism, objection, question. Now always remember, friends, there is a very beautiful term. I know some of you are quite sincere and are even taking notes of these things. It is nothing like writing down some of the words. So you can even say cast a doubt. You can even say calls into question. You can even use a beautiful word of English, vulnerable. And you can say vulnerable to objection or vulnerable to criticism, which means that the case study is a soft target for a easy analysis. And this in itself is a very big lacuna, bottleneck, or a jammer. So whenever you use these words, these terms like bottleneck, like lacuna, or like gaps, this directly means that you're not happy with the claims of the case study. You are not that satisfied with the claims of the case study, because you see, every case study is nothing but a point of opinion by one author. It is definitely not necessary that you have to agree with him. You can even say that some of his drawbacks could be that his evidences are weak, that he has not given you enough material, he has not given you enough evidences. Pretty clear? Okay, now I also believe that you've taken notes. So what are the two ways of handling the case studies? So the two ways are either you could support or you could probably go against it. Okay, and the other is that you could primarily oppose it. So either it is support or it is opposed. Now let's get going. Okay, so let me just tell you a little story about this name that you can see on your screen, Aditya. Okay, now one thing that Sanjoli forgot to talk about me, I'm a very good raconteur, because the only thing that I guess I have in special is I'm a raconteur, and raconteur is a term which is used for somebody who tells good stories. So today I would like to take some of your precious time to dictate a small story from my side. Let us say I have a friend named Aditya, and the minute I call him a friend, this directly means that, you know, he is somebody who I am deeply fond of. He is somebody who kind of visits my family every now and then. My kids love playing with his kids, and he is more of, let's say, you know, a great spirited person I can think of. So, you know, this guy Aditya always has his shoulder for me to rest upon whenever there are hard times. He is really a true friend, and I think he defines a friend in need is a friend indeed in all means. So there is just one thing that I want to tell you before I start, you know, more about Aditya, that Aditya smokes. That Aditya smokes, and I don't like those people who smoke. Because once they smoke, it is the stench from their mouth that I cannot withstand, that I just cannot tolerate. So So over here you see, I like everything about Aditya. Look, he is a financial support to me in the time I am in financial crisis. He is a great spirited human being. He is a good family friend. He brings with him all the kind of good vibes. There is nobody who can replace Aditya for me in my life. He of course fills all the vacuum that I have in my life. He and I join for a lot of things. But he smokes. And I just feel helpless when he smokes. And those are the times that we even quarrel over his smoking habit. Now my question to you, for which you have to answer, is what kind of liking do I have towards Aditya? I am going to give you two very simple words. Your answer should be any of those words. Right? Once again, let me explain Aditya. Aditya comes up with 1,000 good habits, but has one problem in his entire conduct, that he smokes. And I cannot approve of his smoking. Now my question to all the aspirants of this case study is, what kind of liking do I share towards Aditya? My two words are, do you think my liking is qualified or is it unqualified? I got Satvik talk about vulnerability. Satvik, the answer that you have to give is either qualified or unqualified. I got Shivani, unqualified. Thank you. Praveen also feels it's unqualified. Thank you, Praveen. I got Aparna suggesting unqualified. Satvik now talking about qualified. We got Sheetal qualified, Simran qualified, Jaiman unqualified. We got Prerna unqualified, Aman qualified, Chirag unqualified, Simi unqualified, 65 Sania qualified, Tehreen unqualified, Junaid Mulani qualified. So I got good number of responses. I got Vinay suggest qualified, Afroz suggest unqualified, Neha and Lizam suggest unqualified and qualified, Shruti qualified, Neha unqualified. All you guys are quite bright, and what I like the most about is that you heard my story. So that means I'm good at storytelling. Now I am even good at explaining what I have to explain. Before I suggest that some of you are wrong and the others are correct, then this is something understood, because the answer can only be one. The answer cannot be both. Either my liking towards Aditya was qualified or my liking towards Aditya was unqualified. Now this is very, very clear. So let me give you another addition to it. Now if I have another friend, and let us say his name is Narendra. Now this guy Narendra came to me and he suggested me that Alok, that is what my name is, Alok Jagga, right? So he suggested me that, hey Alok, are you sure that in this world you have no other smokers as your friend or as somebody who visits you? Then I got really confused. I started thinking that, is that truth or not? Because you see, I have a business. So in business, I come across a lot of people. I really, really fail to understand how many of them actually smoke or not smoke. But I know Aditya smokes. That is why I had my objection towards him. Okay. But I really don't know whether the others smoke or not. So he said that, these days smoking is like what do you say? It's like a lifeline for people. Moreover, he's smoking for years. It's very hard for him to quit. And the smoking has earned him a lot of reputation and name. And today he's at a very good position in the marketing field. And I think one of the reasons he's doing well is because of his smoking. So, this Narendra gave me a good outlook towards smokers. And Narendra changed my thinking, and now my opinion is very different. Now whenever I describe Aditya, I'm a changed person, so I describe, तो क्या हुआ भाई, वो स्मोक करता है, अपराध थोड़ी है स्मोकिंग करना, स्मोकिंग हर कोई करता है. Now look at me. I was absolutely no against smoking earlier, and suddenly I have become yes even to a bad habit. Right? Why? Because Narendra convinced me. So only because Narendra convinced me, I have become good towards the bad habit also. Now this acceptance of everything is actually unqualified. But my earlier stand was qualified. So those of the individuals who gave the answer qualified are absolutely correct. Because qualified means with qualifications, with some conditions, with some suggestions. Right? I still remember there was this kid named Sumit. He responded qualified as the first, response. I really loved his response. Qualified means balanced. In your life, whenever you have a case study, you should have a balanced opinion. You just cannot blindly trust all the claims which are made in the case study. Of course, facts you can't deny. Okay, now let me just go a little slow because I know you won't be able to catch me as fast. So there are always two things in a case study. There are always two kind of sentences in English. Let's make it very broad. Either your sentence is a truth, that means it's a fact, or your sentence is a claim, that means it's an opinion. So you cannot blindly trust the opinion. What do you have to do? You have to trust the opinion as long as it is backed up by a proof. But the minute you feel that there was no good proof, you also have to ask for more proofs. That is where you have to do a qualified analysis of a case study. I hope you all are getting me. Qualified analysis means you cannot just fall in love for Aditya. It is not that Aditya is the best woman in this world. No, that's not true. Aditya is good, but he smokes, right? In the same way, this case study, although may look quite promising, may really talk about a lot of things that an organization has done, but it is still based on a lot of areas which are needed to be reviewed, needed to be looked upon. A couple of data is missing. So qualified and unqualified are definitely two ways of doing a case study. Those of you who ever believe that you can extremely fall in love with something or you can extremely hate somebody, trust you me, this is called as extremist. And extremist opinions are not valid opinions simply because they are polished. These days, I'm sorry, I'm a completely apolitical person, so let me just tell you, these days there are two terms which are quite common and they are coined and they are spinning around in the market. Either you are andhbhakt or you are a chamcha. Now, what do you mean by andhbhakt? If you are an andhbhakt, you like everything that the ruling party is doing. And if you are a chamcha, you just don't like anything that the ruling party is doing. So, who has coined these words? Well, the terms are coined only because of behavioral aspects of some individuals. Because they kind of love everything and anything, and you end up justifying everything that is done by the ruling party. That's absolutely wrong approach. Even if you are in support of the ruling party, you still have to try to question them wherever something is getting wrong, something is not really furnished. In the same way, even if you are supporting a counter opinion, you still have to agree that, okay, somewhere the case study is complete. So you also cannot say that the case study is completely bogus or the case study is completely challenged. So what do you have to do? You have to use your intellect, you have to use your ideas. Now, how do you have to do that? The later part of this particular presentation will cover that. I hope some of you have given the idea as qualified. All you guys are champions. Those who have given unqualified, I hope they have understood. So in the comment, they can simply write down if they understood. You always and always have to make sure that you have to look into a balanced kind of an opinion. Clear? Now let's get going in the case study. Let's go further. Okay, now some of the parameters that judges can account for. So let us say that if I were on the panel of the judges, what are the few parameters that I would always look in for from a case study? These are some of the parameters. I hope you all can see it on your screen. So one of you can simply confirm, is it visible on screen? Because some of you had asked for the listing. So is the list visible? First, you have to have a complete understanding of the case study. Now, we are calling you a scholar simply because, yes, you are somebody who is in here for understanding the pattern, the phenomenon, the ideology, the pedagogy, and the correct approach of solving a case study. So, understanding the case study by a scholar is the very first thing that one has to do. Thank you, Suraj. Thank you, Amrit, to suggest that you understood, and it's visible also. Thank you. Elucidating clear and compelling stand. Always remember, your stand has to be clear and compelling. Now, how can you make a clear and compelling stand? Always remember a couple of things. Okay, whenever you want to make a clear and compelling stand, right, you should validate this by some of the proofs that you give. Now, how can you give proof? You can choose some of the evidences from the real world. And there is a beautiful way. Let me teach you, there's a beautiful way. You can always say there may be a case that. If at all you are somebody who's bringing out a supposition. So if you do not know how to handle a case study, and if you really don't have a valid proof to disqualify a case study, still you can disqualify, some of the claims made in the case study by suggesting there may be a case that. For example, something that you have learned from the Johannes of the society, from your everyday living, you all have observed a lot of things. So you can always make up a case like there may be a case that. So it should be clear and compelling. The only two words are it should be strong and it should be clear. I mean, the reader should not get confused about how did you handle that. Pretty clear? Then strongly validate the argument by relevant evidences. Now, when I say validate the argument, don't you worry. I am not saying that always support. Validate means whatever argument or a stand that you are making. Okay. So it's in second point. You're making a stand over here. Now you have to validate your argument. Your argument means your point of view. And how do you do that? By strong examples and pointers. Right? Always remember, a reader would like to read any article which is broken into paragraphs. So you should use paragraphs, right? So a paragraph would be a 3 to 4 paragraph structure, because you see, you are only doing a review of a case study. You are not actually developing your own case study. So you cannot go absolutely limitless, right? So there has to be parameters. There has to be, broken paragraphs, and these broken paragraphs can easily be read by a reader, and a reader can quickly, give reviews upon that. Try to address to the word limit. It cannot be less than 320 words, simply because a 4-para structure less than 320 words is anyways challenged. That directly also means that you do not have valid points. Okay, so it should be 320 words minimum. I never said maximum. Now it is often seen, I will be very, very clear because I'm into this for quite some time now. It is often seen that if you are somebody who's written a 450, you always have a better chance than somebody who's written a 380 words, right? To get qualified to the next round, simply because it is very much possible that you've taken 2 more accounts to either buttress or to disqualify the claims made in the case study. So it is always, one hand give and one hand take. So the more you write, right, the more you get in turn. So it is not that you write rubbish. So that is exactly what is written in the next point. So, some of you may just listen to me. One teacher is saying that we have to go beyond 320. Well, the teacher is definitely saying you have to go beyond 320 because that is the correct agenda. But when you go beyond 320, right, then that does not mean that you start writing redundant sentences. Now, when I use this term redundancy, okay, somebody explain me what is redundancy through your comments. Can you put comments on the screen, please? Thank you. Now, I would want you to please tell me what is redundancy. Yes, this term, redundancy, in point number 6, avoid redundancy. Repeating the same. Kamlesh, very good. Repetition, Vishal, very good. So, these bright students, Jaiman also said, Saptani also said, thank you. So, yes, repetition is one way. So, don't do repetition. It is not that for words, you just start craving for words. You cannot crave for words and just go redundant. And the second is rhetorical structure. Now, what is rhetorical structure? Rhetorical actually means something of the very usual types. So, in news channels, we often see there are rhetorical questions or there are rhetorical statements. So, sometimes you can even enact like, a news reader. I think we all can. Can we? Yes. At home, I also. For example, एक सनसनीखेज न्यूज आई है, आज हमने पता लगाया है कि यहाँ पर एक so and so चीज हुई है, देखिए कैसी हुई है. So, some of the terms they use are very, very rhetorical in nature. In the same way, somebody who's writing a case study can even be subjected to rhetorical sentence formations, right? What do you mean by rhetorical sentence formations? All your sentences, by and large, are of the same length, one, and they use similar kind of structure. You are somebody who's not making compound sentences at all. But trust you me, unless you make compound sentences, unless you use sentences in which there's a contrast, unless you use sentences in which there's a connection, unless you use a lot of conjunct, I hope you know what conjuncts are. So unless you make a sentence with although, unless you make a sentence with not only but also, unless you make a sentence with however, there is no way that you can kill this rhetorical structure. So you have to employ all these tricks. Okay. Now, the last points, very important. Whenever there is a change in the paragraph or whenever you are writing a next sentence followed by a previous sentence, there has to be a transition statement. What do you mean by transition statement? It should not be a standalone sentence. See, nobody cares of how good do you write. It's not a question. First of all, let me explain you, it is not an issue writing. We are not asking you to write an essay. Because we are not making you write an essay, we really do not care of how beautifully have you written sentences or what valid good sentences you've written. Instead, that you should have an argument, that means you should have a point of view, and your every next sentence should be related to the previous sentence, and there has to be a transition statement, right? And what do you mean by transition? There has to be a swift move from the previous sentence. So you have to use some link from the previous sentence to reach out to the next sentence. If you are not using transition sentences, your entire review, right, will not be valued so much. I hope you understood. So transition statements are, of course, very, very, very important. Clear? Okay. I hope you understood what are the parameters that a judge always looking for from you guys to understand. Okay. Now, thank you, Sahil, to suggest that you understood. Now, this makes me reach out to the next slide. There are some of the words that I would like to teach to you at this point in time. These words are called as fillers. They are called as language fillers. You can even call them equalizers, or as I already suggested, they are nothing but some form of a connection they give you from a previous sentence to the next sentence. So when I said use transition sentences, if you are writing a transition sentence which is related to the previous sentence, please use this first word of your sentence as furthermore. Also, you could use the word like moreover, or you could use the word like additionally, or the word even, right? Or the word essentially. There are lots of words like certainly. So whenever you use this word like certainly, or in fact, this directly means you're going to further validate the same point. So all these equalizers are going to give a lot of value to your language. So remember, before really submitting your review of your case study, once you go for a proofreading, make sure to add these words in the opening of your sentences so that the reader can understand, okay, that this sentence is spoken or written in relevance to the previous sentence, so that the connection between the two things could be built. Now, we'll go ahead. Okay. Now, these are 4 areas. These 4 areas you can find in bloody any case study. And this is like a challenge that I am giving openly, that yes, in any case study. For example, some of you could be amateurs, some of you could be beginners, but you have participated in this. When you have participated, I think it is my duty and it would be my honor to give you a valid chance that you could win this, that bloody you could make it up, that you are the one. And how could you do that? Because every case study is subjected to these 4 areas, be it any case study, right? So in order to explain, I would like to read out a case study. As I said, I am somebody who's a raconteur, right? I keep talking about stories. So let's take a valid story, a quick 5-7 minute story, and understand how to validate this case study, the one that I'm taking right now. So let me explain a little about me. I am from Jaipur, okay, and Jaipur is in Rajasthan. And you see, this Rajasthan is home to a lot of tourists and everything. But at the same time, over this period of pandemic, we have seen a lot of crimes rise because of unemployment rising, because of people losing jobs, and moreover, because of need of money, people starting skipping things from people. It could be shoplifting, it could be theft, it could be burglary. So let's just produce a case study. And in order to produce a case study, what I would do is, I would literally bring out something over here. Just give me a quick minute. Here I go. And beautiful. So, can I not type? Thank you. So here we go. So let's say criminals caught. $380. Let's say there are 380 criminals which are caught during this spell of year 2021-22. How many criminals are caught? 380. Clear? Can you see the terms criminals caught? Okay. Now, last year, the total number of criminals caught were 760. So last year the number was 760, right? Now let us say the last year the number was 760, this year the number is 380. Now of course what do you see? That there's a 50% decline in the total number of criminals caught. Okay, now when investigation was done, then it was found that most of them have agreed, right? So let me further take it. Most agreed to have stolen, right? So most of them, what did they see? That we have stolen something. And most of them, let us say 80%. So let me even give it a fictitious percentage. 80% of them have said that we have stolen. Now try to understand, look at this case study, okay? So we are saying that last year it was 760 and this year around the total number of criminals caught is 380. Most of these 380 agreed that they have stolen, right? So author is now saying that you see police is working so well that the total rate of crime has declined by 50%. So what is police claim? That the rate of crime has declined. So let me even write. Rate of crime dropped by 50%. Okay, now he further says that police has issued an advisory to common men to safeguard their home and belongings with a 7 levers and more strong locking mechanism. How fantastic an idea. So they are merely making announcement all around Jaipur saying that, hey guys, that don't leave your belongings here, there. Always lock your houses or lock your whatever stores with a 7 levers of locking mechanism. This will safeguard you. Okay, now this is a case study and given to you for a review. Now I was going to say that these 4 areas would be present. So not only this case study, I'll even take you online right now and we are going to find out more case studies and we'll do a 2-3 case studies. Unless I do, I won't be satisfied कि हाँ यार बच्चों को कुछ सिखा. And first of all बच्चे नहीं, जवान लोगों को कुछ सिखाया क्योंकि आप लोग यार जो हो, आप लोग entrepreneurs हो, कुछ अच्छी चीज सीख रहे हो. So you and I are on the same page. पहले तो ये समझ लेते हैं. पहले ये समझते criminals caught 380, most agreed that 80% of them said कि हाँ भैया हमने चोरी की है. ऑथर का ये मानना है कि 380 कैच हुए 760 से, मतलब रेट ऑफ क्राइम हैज कम डाउन बाय 50%. इस पूरे केस स्टडी में अगर मैं आपसे पूछूं कि कुछ assumptions हैं, राइट, तो पहली assumption, पहला अनुमान ऑथर ने ये लगाया कि अगर 7 levers of locking mechanism है तो उसे तोड़ के चोरी नहीं की जा सकती, राइट. वेल ये आपको कैसे मालूम? ऑथर को कैसे मालूम? सो ऑथर ने एक assumption लिया that 7 levers of locking mechanism will avoid theft to happen. But where has he given us any data to suggest the modus operandi or the style in which stealing was taking place? He never said anything. Moreover, he also took something like shoplifting into account. Whereas in shoplifting, the shopkeeper is present over there. So how can you lock a shop when the shopkeeper is present and the belongings are there and still it is getting lifted, right? So this was one area of assumptions. ये एक big simple सा assumption था. अब करते हैं second पर, data analysis. Guys, data क्या होता है? आप सोचेंगे केवल न्यूमेरिकल डेटा होता है. यहां पर तो न्यूमेरिकल है भी, परसेंटेज डेटा होता है. मेरे हिसाब से डेटा होता है लास्ट ईयर भी एक डेटा है और ईयर बिफोर भी एक डेटा है, रिसेंटली भी एक डेटा है. सो कहीं पर भी जहां पर आप एनालाइज कर सके, हर वो चीज एक डेटा होती है, एक रेलेवेंट डेटा. सो व्हाट डू यू डू विद द डेटा? ऑलवेज रिमेंबर, I got this guy Satvik already influenced me. This guy is amazing. So इसे हम इंटरप्रिटेशन कहते हैं. सात्विक, मैं आपका वाला पॉइंट 2 मिनट के लिए मुझे दीजिए, मैं उसको पिक करूंगा. पर अभी फर्स्ट ऑफ ऑल आई रियली अप्रिशिएट सात्विक, आपने इस केस स्टडी को अच्छे से सुना, आपने एक बहुत अच्छा वैलिड पॉइंट दिया है यहाँ पर. सो आई रियली अप्रिशिएट. सो अभी हम लोग क्या बात कर रहे थे? हम लोग बात कर रहे थे कि जब भी हमारे पास कुछ डेटा होता है उसको एनालाइज करना बहुत जरूरी है. पहले ऑथर ने कहा कि 380 क्रिमिनल्स कैच किए हैं हमने, जिसमें से 80% कह रहे हैं उन्होंने चोरी किया है. बाय द वे, आपको नहीं लगता कि ये 80% क्रिमिनल्स का कहना कि उन्होंने चोरी किया है, ये अपने आप में शक पैदा करता है कि चोरी की सजा कम होती है, इसलिए उन्होंने ये मान लिया कि उन्होंने चोरी किया है, so that they could escape the punishment of a bigger crime. So how are we trusting the testimony of criminals? They are criminals. They are caught by police. How can we trust their statement and make a claim based upon that. So author is sounding very, very simple person. He is simply trusting the testimony of criminals. That's not how it works, right? So this is data analysis. Moreover, let's use Satvik's point. Satvik is saying that only because the police has caught 380 criminals compared to the 760 criminals, those that were caught the last year, that merely does not mean 50% of criminals catching, does not mean that there's a 50% drop in the crime. राइट, इट कुड इवन बी पॉसिबल, जैसे मैंने आपको कहा था ना, आप हमेशा एक एविडेंस कैसे देंगे, आप हमेशा ये बोल के एविडेंस दे सकते हैं, देयर मे इवन बी पॉसिबल. तो अब आप हम लोग बोल रहे हैं इट मे इवन बी पॉसिबल दैट द पुलिस हैज बिकम इनइफेक्टिव, that the police is not functional in the same lines and maybe the crime rate is same, right? So in all such cases the argument requires a little more details, right? Okay, Afroz is saying chances of reduced patrolling in COVID, very, very good. Now Afroz, you are taking me directly to the subjectivity of the author concerned, so let me just do it step by step. Afroz, I'm really happy for the way you are evaluating the case study. So assumptions are there in this case study. Data analysis, one point I've already covered. Now let me cover the point of data interpretation. What do you mean by interpretation? Interpretation means your lookout. Aapka lookout versus the lookout of somebody who's reading it. So author का lookout तो क्या था? Police is working effectively. Police ने एक advisory भी issue कर दिया. Right, prospect, absolutely correct Neha. Lookout means prospect or interpretation means prospect. So are we agreeing with the prospect, the data prospect? Right? No. What do you have to do? You have to give your own prospect in the same line. For example, over here it is written that you see the number of crimes have dropped. Now you can say there could be multiple reasons for less criminals caught, primarily because the households were not reporting any of the crimes in order to become not more vulnerable. So maybe the reporting has been low and this has resulted into low number of criminals or crimes registered against people. Furthermore, we also have to look into different aspects from the same outcome. It's not that we change the facts. So what are the facts? Okay, you caught 50% criminals. Further, that the 80% of them have agreed. Now over here in data interpretation, you can even bring out how about the 20% crimes that these people are committing. It is even possible that those crimes are very, very serious. Maybe crimes like molestation, crimes like anything that could be more dangerous like homicides, crimes like anything that can make you prone to a suicide, crimes like extortion money, crimes like anything could further be involved in this, but because they wanted to escape, so they quickly went on to latch on to that 80% of the population which were agreeing, okay, they have simply involved themselves into something like this. Now let's bring that Afroz point, subjectivity. अफरोज, आपने जो बात कहा है ना, इसे हम कहते हैं सब्जेक्टिविटी ऑफ द ऑथर. आपने आज ये वर्ड मेरे साथ पढ़ा था क्वालिफाइड, जब ये सेशन शुरू हुआ था. वेल, क्वालिफाइड का ही मतलब होता है सब्जेक्टिविटी. ऑल द रीजंस कुड बी अज्यूम्ड इन अ केस स्टडी, नॉट ऑल द रीजंस माय फ्रेंड. असम्पशन केवल उसी चीज का होता है जो आपको कंक्लूजन पे लेके जाए, राइट? तो ऑथर ने ये कहा था देयर इज अ डिक्लाइन इन द क्राइम, सो दैट वाज द कंक्लूजन. केवल वहां तक पहुंचने वाली चीजों को शालिनी हम लोग assumptions कहते हैं. Everything cannot be assumed, only something that validates the conclusion can be assumed. Furthermore, you cannot cast a doubt on the structure of the case study. So let me tell you, assumptions रहते हैं, that's all. और खाली assumptions is not how you check upon a case study. यही मैं आपको समझा रहा हूं. Some students, what do? They only write assumptions. It is not a very good evaluation. Okay, Shalini brings me to a very good point जो मुझे अभी बोलना चाहिए. गाइज, आप लोग जानते हैं ना, ये 4 प्रोफेशनल्स होते हैं. पहला लॉयर, दूसरा ऑडिटर, राइट, और कुछ और भी प्रोफेशंस होते हैं. तीसरा इन्विजिलेटर, जो एग्जामिनेशन में इन्विजिलेटर्स होते हैं. एक बार इनका नेचर आपने कभी जाना है. चौथा डॉक्टर. व्हेन यू लुक अपॉन दिस, ओके, सो ट्राई टू अंडरस्टैंड द वेरी, यस नरेंद्र, प्रोस्पेक्ट, एब्सोल्युटली करेक्ट. सो जब ये 4 होते हैं ना, ये अपना एक प्रोस्पेक्ट लेकर के आते हैं, ये अपना एक इवैल्यूएशन का पैरामीटर लेकर के आते हैं. फॉर एग्जांपल, एक ऑडिटर को अगर आप एक सक्सेसफुल बिजनेस भी दिखा देंगे, इवन इफ यू मेक एन ऑडिटर रिव्यू अ सक्सेसफुल बिजनेस, he would still be able to subject it to some more improvements. He could further suggest you improvements to improve your productivity, to improve your profitability. That does not mean your business was not doing well. So you should have a hawk's eye while you're doing a case study, that okay, what are the areas that I could latch out with and probably give the conclusion, rest my conclusion upon. So always remember these things, that आपको हमेशा एक ऑडिटर की तरह सोचना है, एक लॉयर की तरह सोचना है. एक लॉयर क्या कहता है, जो भी फैक्ट्स है वो मुझे बताइए. फिर वो आपसे कहता है ये फैक्ट्स तो आपने मुझे बता दिए, पर क्या आप कोई ऐसा एविडेंस ला सकते हैं जो इस चीज को प्रूव कर दे, क्योंकि आपके फैक्ट्स में ये गैप है. अब वो जो गैप है ना, राइट शालिनी, वो केवल अजम्पशन नहीं हो सकता, वो डेटा इंटरप्रिटेशन भी हो सकता है, वो डेटा एनालिसिस भी हो सकता है. और लास्टली, जैसा हमें अभी हमारे एक फ्रेंड ने कहा था, लेट मी रीड दैट नेम, अफरोज ने कहा था, सब्जेक्टिविटी ऑफ द ऑथर भी हो सकता है. राइट, प्रोफेशनलिज्म. भाव्या, मैं इसको ना अभी पिक करूंगा प्रोफेशनलिज्म को, इस स्लाइड शो को कंप्लीट करने से पहले. आई प्रॉमिस ऑन दैट. सब्जेक्टिविटी की एक बार बात कर लेते हैं. सब्जेक्टिविटी का मतलब होता है ऑथर्स एंटायर लुकआउट इज डाइल्यूटेड. ऑथर्स एंटायर लुकआउट इज डाइल्यूटेड. आप कभी भी ऑथर को ब्लाइंडली फेथ नहीं कर सकते. व्हाट डू यू मीन बाय द एंटायर लुकआउट इज डाइल्यूटेड? कम ऑन गाइस, वो बायस्ड होता है, हर ऑथर बायस्ड होता है. इफ आई एम सेइंग एनीथिंग, मैं कुछ भी कहता हूं, डेफिनेटली वो मेरा ओपिनियन है, तो मैं बायस हो गया ना, क्योंकि मेरा एक ओपिनियन है. सो वेयरएवर देयर इज ओपिनियन, देयर इज एन एलिमेंट ऑफ बेंट. सो जब आप उस बेंट को एक्सपोज कर देते हैं, तो हम कहते हैं सब्जेक्टिविटी ऑफ द ऑथर को एक्सपोज करना. राइट, जैसे अफरोज ने क्या कहा था, चांस ऑफ रिड्यूस्ड पेट्रोलिंग इन कोविड. अब अफरोज को भी नहीं मानता कि ये पॉइंट सब्जेक्टिविटी का है. गाइस, ऑथर ने क्या कहा? ऑथर ने कहा दैट इफ वी आर गोइंग टू इश्यू एन एडवाइजरी कि लोग अपने घरों पर ताला लगा लें, तो ये चोरी हो रही कम हो जाएगी. एक्सक्यूज मी, आपको कैसे मालूम उनके घर पे ताला नहीं लगा हुआ? पहली चीज. दूसरी चीज, पुलिस का काम एडवाइजरी इश्यू करना नहीं था, पुलिस का काम चोरी कम करना था. तो ये पुलिस कुछ नहीं कर रही है. आपने क्या कर दिया, ऑथर की पूरी सब्जेक्टिविटी पे ही चेक कर लिया. बिकॉज ऑथर इस पूरे आर्गुमेंट में ये प्रूव करना चाहता था पुलिस इज वर्किंग क्वाइट इफेक्टिव. लेकिन आपका थॉट प्रोसेस क्या था? यू वांटेड टू कास्ट अ डाउट अपॉन द ऑथर. तो आपने क्या किया, उसकी सब्जेक्टिविटी देखी पहले, कि वो सब्जेक्टिव था ही नहीं. उसने एंड में आपको क्या कहा था, इश्यू एन एडवाइजरी. उसने आपको मोड ऑफ एडवाइजरी भी नहीं बताया. राइट, सो अगर आपको मोड ऑफ एडवाइजरी नहीं मालूम, तो आपको क्या मालूम कि वहां का डेमोग्राफिक पढ़ा लिखा है या अनपढ़ है? वो न्यूज़पेपर एडवाइजरी को पढ़ेगा या वो रेडियो पे एयर की हुई एडवाइजरी सुनेगा? सो ऑल दीज पैरामीटर्स व्हेन यू कंसीडर, दैट्स कॉल्ड एज सब्जेक्टिविटी ऑफ द ऑथर. प्लीज ये 4 वर्ड्स आप लोग नोट डाउन कर लीजिए, क्योंकि जब आप इस केस स्टडी को रिव्यू करेंगे तो पैनलिस्ट्स हमेशा इन एरियाज को चेक अपॉन करते हैं. ये 4 कॉमन पैरामीटर्स हर केस स्टडी के अंदर एज अ लक्यूना या एज अ बॉटलनेक रहते हैं. लेट मी रीड व्हाट Khadija has written. Sir, the person against whom the crime have been committed might not know about the crime carried out, as they might not even be present. Absolutely correct, खादिजा. ये तो वो होगा ना, रीजंस क्या हैं डेटा इंटरप्रिटेशन में. बेटा हमने यही पढ़ा था खादिजा, कि रीजंस क्या हैं कि हमें क्राइम लो दिख रहा है. इसका मतलब ये नहीं है कि पुलिस इफेक्टिव है. देयर कुड बी मल्टीपल रीजंस, जैसा एक खादिजा ने किया. सो खादिजा ने जो लिखा है ना, इसे बोलते हैं देयर मे इवन बी अ केस दैट. सो आई थिंक आप लोग धीरे धीरे चैंपियन बन चुके हैं. ऑफ कोर्स वी शुड टेक द रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी ऑफ एवरीथिंग दैट वी डू. ओके गाइस, सो दिस वाज अबाउट हाउ कैन यू इवैल्यूएट अ केस स्टडी. एक क्विक सम अप करने से पहले हम लोग एक आधी केस स्टडी और लेते हैं. सो जस्ट गिव मी 1 क्विक मिनट. कैन वी गो लाइव ऑन yeah, thank you. I want to share this. Yeah, this one only. No, Google. Just a minute, guys. We are going live right now on Google to find out a case study, and we are going to review it live. I am going to review it live for you. Okay. So you can simply write pool of, it says issue topics, argument topics. Issue topic is like Nibandh Lekhan, so we are not doing Nibandh Lekhan. This says ETS, that's the first site that opens. Okay. I got my buddy stand in here. I would request him to join me. Can you please join me from the tech over here? Please join me. Please join me. Okay, you have to prompt a word stop to me whenever you're comfortable. You can scroll it to any limit and just stop anywhere.
Okay.
This one. So he has taken me to this particular case study. We'll do it in a real time. Now, what is this case study? This is like a summary of a detailed case study which is given to you. So the case study which is kind of given to you is like 12 to 16 pages. That is the ideal length of a case study because there are lots of details. Now, this is a summary of that case study. So let's just go ahead and read that. The following appeared in the summary of a case study of a headache suffered in the residence of Manchia. It says, salicylates are members of the same chemical family as aspirin, a medicine known to treat headaches. I'm going to go very, very slow. So what is author talking about? Author is talking about a particular medicine over here. It's named as salicylates, and he is claiming that these are members of the same chemical family like aspirin, a medicine used to treat headaches. Of course, yes, we all understand that headaches are treated by aspirin. Although many foods are naturally rich in salicylates, for the past several decades, food processing companies have also been adding salicylates to food as preservatives. Now they are saying salicylates are naturally also present, right? For example, you may have apple with salicylates, or it says there are naturally rich food in salicylates. So the example that comes to my mind right now is like maybe when I'm eating apple, I'm eating salicylates. It also says that even they can add artificially, such as by injecting or by processing, one of the ways as preservatives. The rise in the commercial use of salicylates has been found to correlate with the steady decline in the average number of headaches reported by the participants in our 20-year studies. So he is saying that in 20 years, two things have correlated. First, the number of headache cases has declined, and second, there was an increase in the salicylates processing units. So ultimately, they were putting in salicylates in a lot of commercial uses. Finally, they are saying with this new use of salicylates, we can expect a continued steady decline in the number of headaches suffered by the average citizens in Manchia. So you see, whenever you are going to write a case study, this is a case study about a particular place called Manchia, and in Manchia, they are saying that the headaches were declined because of an increase in the salicylates and stuff like that. So what do you have to say? Primarily, guys, whenever you open a case study, you have to write a summary. You have to write a summary. So maybe your first paragraph should read something like, in the given case study, author has gone ahead to claim that there would be a further reduction, right, in the cases of headaches with an increased use of salicylates into commercial manner. Full stop. Additionally or furthermore, you remember these words I gave you? So you can say furthermore. It is suggested that over 20 years, there is a constant spell of decline with a constant spell of rise in salicylate cases. These are the facts. You're not writing anything right now. Then you take your stand that better evidences and further light is to be thrown upon in order to elucidate whether these evidences bring to you the conclusion or not. In your follow-up paragraphs, you can write down all the things that we have discussed, such as what is the assumption. Okay, so the simplest assumption is that the only reason there is a drop in the cases of headache is because of improved popularity of salicylates. Now, these two things could be coincidental. Maybe people over the last 20 years have become more health conscious, and that is why they are maintaining a routine which anyways does not welcome a great deal of headaches. So what did I say? There may be a case. There may be a case. So always use this terminology. There may be a case, or it could even be possible that, or it is likely that. So, the language that you use. Yes, I got this term, suggested by someone over here. That person said professionalism. Bhavya. Bhavya, professionalism actually means you have to always make use of parliamentary language. The language that you make use of has to be parliamentary. So when I say, there may be a case that's a very parliamentary language. Okay. Now, let's talk about assumptions. All done. Now, after assumptions, the second point we had was data sufficiency, right? So data sufficiency, it simply means that because it is a member of the same chemical family, you see, only because it is a member of the chemical family, that does not mean that the same chemical is present which is known to relax the headaches, right? So what do you think? Data was not complete. Now over here, there are no figures. You see, so in the previous case study we did, there were lots of figures. So हमें data ढूंढना आसान था. यहाँ पर भी आसान है दोस्त. उसने एक word लिखा है same. If he is writing a determiner, आपका determiner is also a point to be evaluated. If I say recently, that can be evaluated. If I say equal, that can be evaluated. Furthermore, it says the average number of headaches, right, reported in participants over 20 years. Now you remember, it is only reported by participants. Not everybody was a participant. Only those who were subjected to the study were participants. So it is even possible that the group onto which this study was conducted was quite a biased group, and simply the total outcome that the study was interested in was to popularize salicylates. Okay, so I've covered almost all the points. There was data interpretation, right? That he is thinking that this is happening, but maybe this was not happening. The reduction in headache, extreme use of chemical may result in resistance, which may fail in the case of adding salicylates. Okay, so I got Satvik bring out an absolutely different perspective. Yes, Satvik, it can be validated, but you will have to produce a case with that. For example, what has happened, right? Very good. At the end, the decline or the rise will depend upon the patient's choice of consumption. So, no, it is added, and they are saying that on the participants. See, whatever author has written, we cannot challenge upon that. So, even now, and the increased use of salicylates doesn't guarantee the consumption of it by the headache patients. Very good. So, I think what Saisha made as a point was that in case study, the participants were different from those that were facing headaches. So maybe the participants were healthy people. So we really don't know if their, relaxation was because of this or not. So I think you have got a fair bit idea of what do we have to do in case studies. Now, before I call it a session, I would like to take, 5-7 minutes for taking questions from you. So please feel free to raise some questions. Yes, we can remove this website thing. Very good. Can we have questions from the students? If they still did not understand how to evaluate a case study, we can still glean into it. We can still talk about many things into a case study. I hope you also understood what is a parliamentary language. A parliamentary language means you cannot say, first and the foremost. You also cannot say last but not the least. So even though for first, second, third also, sir, is there any particular format for writing solutions of a case study? There are multiple formats. Very good question. There are multiple formats for evaluating, a case study. However, as I suggested, that it would always be correct to go to a 3 to a 4 paragraph. This 4 paragraphs would cover the different perspectives that you want to show to the reader. I think anything and everything that is broken into a paragraph is easy for a reader to validate. As such, there is no standard format. But as I already suggested, please look into 3 things. First, content. Second, structure. Third, conclusion. A case study without a conclusion, in which you don't even have your viewpoint, is not even a case study evaluation. So sometimes what happens, you simply write down what was missing in the case study or what was too good about the case study, but you forget to write what is your input into it, right? So please make sure to have, is it advisable to add data, tables and formats? It is always very good to evaluate data. Okay, you can even use statistical and scientific observations. That's not a problem from the real world also, right? So statistical and scientific observation always validate your cases, because if it's a fact driven by statistical and scientific observations, it's always good. So is it a good practice to solve a case study from a third person perspective? Very good, Neha. It is always a third person perspective. We don't use I, we, me, us. The first person perspective never comes into play. You always have to say that this author, you always have to say this argument, you always have to say this case study. So it is always a third person. So you always have to check upon, because you are always an outsider. Let me explain you. You are like a CRITIQUE. You are like a critique. And if you are a critique, you cannot be a participant into it. So you cannot write, I feel, in my opinion. You can say it can be concluded. Based on the above discussion, it can be concluded that. Very good, Neha. Okay, I hope I've covered most of the points of the questions that were raised out to me. To support our argument, we can use another case as an evidence where similar scenario might have been occurred. Khadija, this is what is evaluation of a case study, my friend. यही तो करना है. When I say बच्चे की आपको example देना है, तो example आप देंगे कैसे? किसी और का ही तो देंगे. Example, elucidation is to produce evidence from somewhere to validate something. For example, आप खाली hypothesis से validate नहीं कर सकते. You cannot have an opinion backing up already an opinion. You have to have an evidence backing up an opinion. इसे हम कहते हैं finding. आपको अपनी findings देनी बहुत जरूरी है. And thank you Khadija for bringing this point. I think now it is clear कि हमें evidences चाहिए, हमें findings चाहिए. Okay, I hope you guys had good fun. Any other questions? I'm still left with 2 more minutes to hang out with you? No more questions? Okay, wish you all the very best, and I want you guys to take it away from the MBAROI.in platform, this lovely prize money, and please make sure that you come up as a good scholar and take the wise decisions in your life. Thank you very much. I'm signing off. Take care. Hasta la vista, and you look after yourself. Have a lovely, lovely day.